This is an exemplar response to the A-Level Film Studies exemplar exam paper for Component 1, Varieties of Film and Filmmaking. It's a 2.5 hour exam. Candidates are reminded that they will be assessed on their use of subject-specific terminology in Section A. The allocation of marks is given at the end of each question or part question. The number of marks indicates the length of the response required. You are advised to spend approximately 50 minutes on your chosen question in each of sections A, B and C. Section A, Hollywood, 1930 to 1990 comparative study. The two films we will be studying for this section are Some Like It Hot and Do the Right Thing. And here are the questions. You only have to answer one per section, but I will be answering all the questions on the exam paper to show you how you can adapt each of the case studies to suit whatever question you choose to answer. So it's either 1A, compare how your chosen films reflect the auteur's signature features of their filmmakers, 40 marks, or B, compare how your chosen films reflect their different production contexts, 40 marks. So here's my answer to 1A. Both Some Like It Hot and Do the Right Thing reflect the completely opposite auteur signature features of both Billy Wilder and Spike Lee respectively. Billy Wilder displays the mark of an auteur in his film Some Like It Hot. His films focus on the witty dialogue rather than gaudy cinematography, keeping the audience's eye on the interaction between the characters. It's very nice, very artistic, he says about an overhead angle shot, but who sees the scene from this angle? It does not push the story along. We shoot from only the angles that helps us tell the story. To that end, Wilder focuses on sharp, quick-fire dialogue between his characters, which in turn pushes the story's narrative along. This soon became his signature feature as an auteur. However, his filmography spans many genres and it's hard to see auteur links between, say, Double Indemnity and Some Like It Hot, other than in the sharply written dialogue. By contrast, Spike Lee's filmography has been remarkably consistent until he made Summer of Sam in the late 90s. His films, like Wilder's, also have quick-fire dialogue, but most of his films have a more consistent theme: race relations in America. In Some Like It Hot, Wilder displays not only quick wit but also a heart, as it is also a love story. Wilder further cemented his auteur status by always insisting that his scripts be spoken exactly as written, with no improvisation or method acting pretensions. His script for Some Like It Hot is still considered one of the best film scripts ever written, since its gag rate is so high. As well as being suitably melodramatic when the plot demands it, such as Joe's deepening relationship with Sugar. Using his talent, Wilder overtly displays and creates connections between other films. George Raft's character in Scarface continually flips a coin. In Some Like It Hot, Raft's character Spats Colombo sees a young hood flipping a coin in the air. He snatches the coin out of the air and says, "Where'd you pick up that cheap trick?" This type of knowing self-referential dialogue is commonplace in films now, but back in 1959 it was a revelation and Wilder led the way. This further supports the proposition that he is indeed an auteur. Taking elements out of widely acclaimed Hollywood films, Wilder places them within his films and deliberately yet subtly parodies them. This parodying of Hollywood and American culture is not only revealed in the dialogue and choice of actor, but also in Wilder's subject matter. He takes American culture and Hollywood and questions them, pushing the boundaries of what was then acceptable in cinema. Throughout Some Like It Hot, Wilder pushes the idea of homosexuality and same-sex marriage beyond what was the norm and acceptable at the time, though it is certainly softened by the genre of comedy. Jerry and Joe often have trouble remembering that they are meant to be women, and ogle at Sugar and rival each other to be closer to her than the other, which also lends the film a sort of pseudo-lesbianism. His use of the cross-dressing disguises also directly refers to and questions the construction of the star image. What is and what isn't the reality of the person or character, the formation of which was happening regularly in Hollywood during this era, as each star was typecast and often still is now. It questions the star and stardom, calling stardom, inverted commas, a role, then subverts it by making the characters step outside of it, thus emphasizing that disguises are metaphors for roles, particularly in life itself, which means that this role-playing becomes part of the character's narrative transformation. i.e. the characters adopt the guise in an act of immorality and throws it off in an act of moral integrity. A theme that Wilder frequently revisits is the idea of human nature, an issue that confronts ordinary people every day. In Some Like It Hot, Joe and Jerry are looking for a job as musicians, but their outlook is grim. For musicians, or artists in general, searching for a job is virtually impossible, whether it's now or in the 1920s. The exploration of human nature is also apparent in the exchanges between Joe and Sugar. Joe is attracted to Sugar, the gorgeous bombshell who is running away from her own life, like him, but his own true identity must remain a mystery. To save himself from Spats Colombo, the head of the mafia, he has to remain incognito, so he disguises himself once again as Sugar's ideal man, a millionaire with a big yacht, glasses, and the ability to take her away from her own life and protect her from herself. By playing hard to get, he reveals to the audience his want for the woman to chase him. This play, an examination of the sexual aspects of social intercourse, including the ease in which Sugar follows this man and runs off into the sunset with him, yet another saxophone player who will likely be just another man who will disappoint her, reveals Wilder's pessimism towards women, a view he held which is widely realised, which explains the hard-bitten, cynical females who turn up in his movies. In that light, with women being untrustworthy and conniving, it is clear that Wilder makes a comment on men as well. Women may be cruel in his eyes, but what does that say about the men who that still follow and woo them? Throughout his film history, Billy Wilder has proved and justified his label as an auteur. With the consistent exploration of the themes of deception, disguise, human nature, stars and stardom, everyday life and people. Using his biting wit and cynicism, he takes the reproduced and carefully constructed Hollywood world that surrounded him and cracks it apart, questioning and prodding at what we take for granted. The image of a star, American values, and the primitive and grating post-war life. Wilder takes his skill at writing and directs with precision his ideas and his philosophies throughout the medium of film. Thus the film can truly, perhaps more than any other in Wilder's filmography, stand testament to his auteur status. Spike Lee is a far more rebellious auteur, given that he is African American and, even today, race relations in America are fraught with tension. His film Do the Right Thing is perhaps his most famous auteur film and exemplifies his brand of filmmaking, loud, brash, and entirely unapologetic about what he sees as the continued oppression of black Americans by white Americans in America. The cinematography is loud, with lots of bright Afrocentric colours which reflect African culture. No white American director would be as brash with colour as he is in this film. He is also a director that works from the zeitgeist, that is to say his films reflect the society in which it was made, both economically and politically. This film was written after a series of high-profile police killings of African American citizens, and indeed they are name-checked in the film itself. Eleanor Bumpers comes to mind. Do the Right Thing also has Lee's signature quick-fire dialogue between characters, such as the montage scene where different ethnic characters angrily hurl a barrage of racial slurs directly into the camera. Lee does not shy away from the horrible racial slurs in his film, but instead insists that the audience confronts them and deals with it in much the same way as countless African Americans have had to deal with it for centuries. In terms of how the film is structured, it truly shows Lee's auteur credentials as no one other than Lee, if one knows his work, could possibly have made it. The film opens with blues music playing over the Universal logo, symbolising the passive, mournful response of African Americans to the historical plight. Indeed, Lee's production company name is a reference to slavery, as each freed black slave was offered 40 acres of land and a mule each as a recompense for the injustice they suffered at the hands of the American government. The government never made good on this pledge, and Lee is not one to forget. So Lee is already making political statements before his credits have even begun. His production company itself is a mark of his auteur status. The bluesy music gives way to the harsh beat of rap group Public Enemy's Fight the Power, which is also the theme's anthem and the take-home message Lee wants his audience to get from his film. Lee as auteur made the film in order to provoke dialogue about race relations in America, and indeed that's what he got when the film opened and caused a wave of controversy. The film is structured almost like a play, with the DJ Senior Love Daddy acting as the film's Greek chorus, i.e. a narrator who describes and comments upon the main action embedded in the film itself, much like plays did in ancient Greece. Characters break the fourth wall, i.e. talk directly to the audience, such as the racial slur montage, and the deliberately stylised theatrical performances, especially Bugging Out and the Mayor. Lee ends the film ambiguously, with contrasting quotes from two of African America's most revered leaders, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Given the devastation of the film's finale, wherein Radio Raheem is dead, Sal's Pizzeria is destroyed, and racial tensions have reached boiling point in the neighbourhood, Lee is offering both King's and X's opposing views as food for thought for the audience. In conclusion, both films reflect the Auteur signature features of their filmmakers because they mirror the artistic preoccupations and themes of their authors, consistent with the body of work, which after all is what auteur means. That's the full 40 mark.